It is Jason and Cole back at you for episode 30 of Overhand Right Radio. We're going to preview the fight card coming up and take a look back at what happened in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we're going to talk a little bit of news. I think there was some news going on. Oh yeah, maybe it's the fact that we have a super fight going on International Fight Week at UFC 226, where when Stipe Miocic defends his title against a light heavyweight title holder in Daniel Cormier. And to me, this is the biggest super fight of all time. It's going down International Fight Week, I should say. And this one is, man, I heard this news and it had me going, holy crap. I can't believe we're actually going to see this fight, because we previewed it in the last podcast and I said, look, this may happen in about a year. Well, I was wrong. It happened like a 24-hour span, but in the end, it gets it done. Let's talk about this fight in a bit, and then we'll talk about if it's the right time to make the fight. How do you think? What do you think about this overall fight? I think it's the biggest super fight that UFC has ever put on.
Yeah, it is. It is, because these are the two most legit champions that I've ever been in a super fight. I mean, it probably is. I mean, you can look at BJ Penn and GSP way back in the day. I think at UFC, I want to say 66.
I think that might have been it.
It was something like that, 71, 66. I mean, at that time, that was a pretty big...
That was a huge fight.
Super fight. I don't even know if they were called super fights at that point, but champion versus champion fight. Up to then, I don't think there's big... I mean, there's big champions who have kind of... at one point, like Anderson went up and stuff, but there's never been a huge fight like this where Daniel Cormier is at the top of his game, basically ran through the division, except John Jones, but he's off to the side. And then you have Miocic, who's basically ran through that division.
Yep.
And
heavyweight of all time.
And Anderson could have did this at one time, but they didn't.
Yes.
And so it does put Miocic and Cormier in this bubble of this could be the greatest fight as far as resume versus resume, as far as them both being in their prime too.
Yes.
So what I love about this, you're talking about a prime Daniel Cormier, a prime Miocic going into battle against each other. And that's what makes it special. This isn't like if they did Anderson and GSP now, we're like, well, they're clearly not the two best in the world. It's a super fight because they're names. But this is not a super fight because they're names. They have names, of course, yes. But this is what makes the super fight special to me is because they're both at the prime of their game.
Yeah. And they're both champions.
Both champions.
Dominant ones at that.
Their styles mimic each other very well. So who wins those little intricate battles in that fight, technique wise? Yeah. Very similar. When you watch both of them fight, they don't give an inch to their opponent. When I looked at this fight originally, I went, man, this is literally gonna be just heart versus heart, will versus will. And
both guys are grinders. And it's interesting to think, because this isn't going to be the first time Daniel Cormier stepped up to heavyweight. This is going to be the first time he's going up to, the 265 limit. He's won a Grand Prix at heavyweight in Strikeforce. And he versed a lot of game opponents in that tournament. Don't forget, Alistair obviously dropped out, but Werdum was in that tournament. Josh Barnett, Bigfoot Silva. And those people also challenged Bigfoot Silva, in that case, challenged for a heavyweight title after against Cain Velasquez and beat Alistair over him. So there wasn't no slouches, and he beat really game guys to get that.
Let's not forget, he's undefeated at heavyweight.
Yes, he is.
Daniel Cormier is 13-0.
Daniel Cormier is undefeated for everyone except John Jones.
Yes, but he's never been beat at heavyweight.
Nope.
Now, some people could say, well, going up a weight would be harder. But sometimes you get a guy like Cormier who can wrestle, and sometimes that wrestling technique can kind of gap that weight. Right, like he's not a what you would call a small light heavyweight.
Nope.
I mean, yes, he's short, but like he's
weight size wise.
He's short for a welterweight, but size wise, mass wise, right? He's not going to be that much smaller than Miocic.
No, and the thing is obviously there's weight cutting issues in the sport, and he's one guy who does a lot of cuts a lot of weight, I should say, and he walks around 230. Don't forget, Miocic's around that 240, 250 range. Right?
Miocic doesn't cut a bit.
No. So here's the thing. Daniel Cormier naturally is about 20, 25 pounds less than Miocic right now. So it's not like you're getting a guy that, is, okay, he doesn't have to cut to get 205 or he barely cuts for going up against a heavyweight like a 265. The weight between these guys it's not a Randy Couture, Brock Lesnar situation like we saw years ago for the heavyweight title. It's not that 40-pound limit. This might be 25 max.
And you can even make the argument that a guy physically like John Jones is harder to fight for a guy like Cormier than a guy, say, like Josh Burnett, who's, yes, heavier, but doesn't have the reach like Jones.
And might not have the speed.
The speed like Jones, right? Those are all kind of counterintuitive things that you would think, well, going up a heavyweight, it'd be worse than that. But it's actually not, because John Jones is a freak athlete in those, when we're doing those comparisons. So Daniel Cormier, when he's thinking about this, he's going, well, I'll probably have the speed advantage. Remember, this guy in the Grand Prix you were talking about in Strikeforce was throwing around a easily 260 Josh Burnett.
Yes.
In the air.
And let's not forget, this means that Daniel Cormier, when he steps up, can maybe get more muscle mass. He can put a little more weight on. He can do the more strength training. Because don't forget, for a big guy like him, he can't get too much muscle mass on him. He's physically strong, yes, but he can't be too big because he needs to cut weight. Now he has that room where he can go, hey, I can lift a little more. I can gain a little more mass. I can use the strength, which he'll need against Miocic and going up to heavyweight. So it's interesting. Now let's talk about if this is the right fight to make. Because I posted on our social media. I went, man, is this the right fight to make? And Alexander Gustafsson came out and he said, man, Cormier's running from me, which I don't believe because they fought once before and Cormier doesn't really run from anybody. He steps up to all competitors. I just believe this is a fight that Cormier wanted to do for a legacy reason, because he came out and he says, if I win, I do consider myself as maybe the best fighter of all time. But is this the right fight to make just because you got Cain Velasquez in the wings? You got Werdum that could possibly get a shot against Miocic, a rematch. And then you got Alexander Gustafsson at the light heavyweight division. It's really hard to say if this is the right time to do it or why not. Because you look at it and you go, man, who does want to see this fight? It's a super fight. Let's do it. But then you look at the other competitors in those divisions with both men, and you go, is it the right time? So I pose that question to you, man. Is it the right time to do it? I think myself, it is, just because it's a super fight. They're both at the top of the game. Yeah, it sucks for Cain Velasquez, for Werdum, and Alexander Gustafsson. Yeah, it sucks to see someone who holds the title in your division going off doing this super fight, and you're sitting here like, man, I want a shot. Especially for Gustafsson, who lost the split decision to Daniel Cormier in a really competitive fight, and one judge gave him the nod over the champion. And he's won a lot since then. Yeah. Had a beautiful performance over Teixeira, right? So I understand that, but I just think, like you said a couple minutes ago, both guys are in their prime. Both are dominant champions. And this is a fight that can really take the UFC to the next level. And it is the biggest super fight in UFC history. So for that point, I say, yeah, it sucks for those guys, but it is the fight to make. And it is the right time.
Well, I'll put it like this. It's not wrong.
Exactly.
It's not the wrong fight to make. Because for me to say, well, this is completely the wrong fight. This is completely the wrong fight to make. You would have to tell me, right? If that's your argument, you would have to then show me a true number one contender, a undisputed number one contender, like a Khabib, like a Tony, that each guy has in their division. Yeah. And there's none. Miocic just beat the guy who we all said that's the guy. That's the number one. So, I mean, just look at it this way. If Miocic wasn't doing this super fight with Daniel, who would he be fighting next probably?
It'd probably be possible. I would think Werdum.
Right, it'd be Werdum, who he knocked out cold in Brazil.
Yes.
That's the best guy the heavyweight can produce. Okay, now let's go to the Daniel Cormier's division, like heavyweight. Who would it be? Gustafsson. Well, he's beat Gustafsson.
Yes. And I think that's why it makes it a little easier for me and the UFC to make this fight, because Gustafsson can sit there and complain, and you know what? I believe in that division he is the number one contender. He's the next guy for Cormier to fight.
Yes, but he's
after
not,
this.
Yeah.
But he's not a number one contender enough where you can not deny him. Like a Khabib and a Tony, you can't deny those guys a shot. You can't pass them by.
Alexander, he's done enough to get to rematch for a title shot, but because he's versed Daniel once for the championship, it kind of puts it on the back burner, right?
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, if he had never fought Daniel Cormier,
yes,
and he just lost to Jones, you can bring a heavier argument to me. I would then go, you're right, he hasn't had his crack at this current champion. I get it. I understand why he can be pissed.
Yes.
I mean, that's how I look at it if I'm the UFC, if I'm a fan. Now, if I'm looking at it as Alexander, his manager, it is a tough situation because you're going, well, who do I fight next then? You just versed a guy, and Ozdemir lost. I mean, the next logical fight would be a guy like Manoa, who you've beat.
Yes.
So Gustafsson is in...
He's in a situation where there's... I know what you're saying.
He's going to have... The situation, what it is now, is he's going to have to take a fight that doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
From a ranking perspective. He's going to have to take a risky fight. Yes. Now, could he sit and wait? Sure he could. And keep his place? Sure he could. But I wouldn't do that. If I'm his manager, I'm saying, no, we need to get a fight. Yes. If you're healthy, we need to get a fight. Because Daniel Cormier, after the super fight in July, probably won't be back till December.
No.
And if you're Gustafsson, Gustafsson's been out since...
He fought in June when he fought.
So now
Alexander
we're talking
Gustafsson
if he fights December 2018, we're talking a year and a half.
Yes, which is a long layoff.
It's a long layoff. Going into a title fight, that's a huge layoff.
Yeah.
So I would, if I'm Gustafsson, you're in between a rock and a hard place, and that's just the way it is. That's the way circumstances are at. And then kind of going, I know some people are like, well, what about Cain at heavyweight? Cain needs a warm-up fight. We talked about this on the last podcast. A guy coming off that many injuries, that long layoff, needs a warm-up fight.
Yes.
Now, when I mean warm-up fight, I probably mean like a guy like Werdum, who he's been linked to for a coming back fight. Actually, probably on the same card that Daniel Cormier is fighting at UFC 226.
And don't forget, if he fights at 226... His last fight was against Travis Brown at 200.
Yeah.
2 years ago. Because that's in July.
Yeah.
International Fight Week.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So you got to look at it like this, man. Like I know we use the term warm-up fight, and it doesn't mean that we're going to, to put it in wrestling terms, we're not going to put out a jobber there and have a squash match. We mean he needs a fight to get in there and really show that, yes, he's number one contender. He is the same Cain that we're used to. And he's going to have the same performance like when he came off the layoff and destroyed Travis Brown at 200, which we were talking about. He needs to show that before we implement him as the undeniable number one contender.
Because right now, there is every other UFC heavyweight and Miocic.
Yes.
Miocic is now, when he beat Ngannou, he said to the fans, the media, the UFC, I am a level above everyone.
Yes.
And I went, yeah, you are, buddy. You are. So I think, could Cain take that fight? Yeah. Does Cain have a legit gripe if he wants that fight? Yeah. Would I do it if I'm Cain or his management team? Or even the UFC? Probably not. Miocic is a tough fight. He's the greatest heavyweight ever. I said if he beat Francis, he would be the greatest heavyweight ever. And he is. Right? And also, if you're Cain, you want that fight versus Werdum because that's the last guy to beat you and take the belt off you. So you want also a little revenge. Also, it's probably a good matchup if you don't have it in Mexico City. Jokes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the situation with the super fight. So, is it the wrong time? No. Is it the right? Sure. They're both in their prime.
Yes.
They don't have legit number one contenders. Why not?
And if you look at the definition of a super fight, it's when two guys are at the top of the game, they're undeniable, they're dominant, they ran through the division, and Daniel Cormier has done that except for John Jones, but we know USADA, yada, yada, yada. And Stipe Miocic has done that. I mean, he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. He's broke the record. So when you look at a super fight, this is the definition of a super fight. So I would agree. It is the right time, and like you said, it's not wrong, so it must be right.
Yeah, and when I look at, I heard some people say, well, what does each guy have to gain? Well, I'm like, if you're DC, pretty much got nothing to lose. Because if you lose the greatest heavyweight champion of all time, it's like, well, you lost to the baddest guy on the earth in his prime. If you're Miocic, is there a little risk? Well, the only risk basically is that you could lose your belt.
Yes.
To an ex-heavyweight, to a lighter division. Sure, there's more of a risk. But at the same thing, if you're Miocic and you're his camp and you're his manager and you want to make him that sensational star that he hasn't become. Now, to hardcore MMA fans, guys probably listening or girls listening to this podcast, you're going, yeah, like he's a star, like he's Steve, he's Stipe.
Yeah.
But he hasn't hit the. I mean, no one's really gonna hit the McGregor. They might, but that's a hard thing to do. But he should be promoted and on the level of one of the top. I mean, he should be at that Brock Lesnar hype level.
Yes.
Right?
He should be 1A, 1B with Conor. Because he is the heavyweight.
Conor's a unicorn.
Conor promotes himself, and Stipe is not really like that. But the UFC
should be close. He should be close.
They should be pushing him.
He should be
like
a guy. I'll put it like this: Miocic should be a guy that when he fights, he sells 1 million.
Yes.
Pay-per-views. Yes. And he's not there yet. And that's on the UFC. That's on him a bit. And what this fight tells me is that his team and him want him to become that. And if you beat a respected veteran champion like Daniel Cormier, it will elevate you. It will elevate you. And then, let's say he wins, then Cain wins, and then you can do this 1A, 1B, is Cain in his prime championship fight. That's another huge fight. And then if Francis comes back in the fold for the rematch, another huge fight, right? This, to me, when I look at it from Stipe's career path, I see this as the gate to superstardom.
Yes.
That's what I see.
Now, let's talk about Cormier, though. Because I know a lot of people are laughing because he went out there and said, hey, if I win this fight, I'm the best fighter of all time. Then you can sit there and you can go, okay, yeah, he's got the losses to John Jones. But let's give him a little bit of credit. When USADA came in, it doesn't look good for Mr. Jones, and therefore he got knocked out, he got popped. So he treats it as a loss, but we know there's a little star next to that as people going, well, we know Jones got popped in. Whatever your opinion is on that, okay, that's fine. That's your opinion. But maybe he won't be the best of all time in your eyes, but you can't deny the fact that he will be the most accomplished fighter of all time. Has someone ever went up and grabbed the light heavyweight belt and the heavyweight belt? No. And on top of that, he's won a heavyweight Grand Prix. There's not a lot of people that have held 2 UFC belts simultaneously, which is something he can do. The only other person is Conor. If he wins this, he'll be the 205 and the 265-pound champ, and he has a Strikeforce Grand Prix to his name. So you cannot deny the fact that he might be the most accomplished fighter of all time. Doesn't mean he has to be the best in your opinion, because whenever you say that, a lot of names get thrown out. But he will be probably the most accomplished of all time. Unless you can remind me someone else who has a Grand Prix accolade, a heavyweight title, if he wins, and a light heavyweight title. There hasn't been one.
He would be top 5
fighters of all time.
Oh, he would be top 5, or no, see, he would be top 3 resumes of all time. Now, when we talk, when people talk best fighters of all time, I say, okay, there's like this weird, like, okay, resumes. Who was the best in the cage when we look at a period of time? Mm-hmm. When I look at a period of time, and I say, and people say, who's the best ever in a period of time? I say Anderson Silva.
I would agree.
When Anderson Silva was the middleweight champion and going on his run, he was the best there's ever been. Now, his resume isn't as good as, a guy like John Jones or maybe a Fedor. Like, Fedor's lost, but Fedor's got a nice resume. Yeah. Right? So resumes are a bit different because when you go down, you look down at John Jones' resume, you're going, holy
a lot of great fighters he's beat.
Legend. Now, you can argue were they in their prime or not, but still, legend. You know what I mean? And so that's a different way of looking at, the all-time greats or whatever, right? So, but no doubt, Cormier would be a top 3 resume of all time.
Yes.
Top,
I don't think there's any argument.
No. There's no argument.
And you look at everybody he's beat in their prime.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
In
so,
their prime, yeah.
I would have to agree he would have one of the best resumes of all time. Look, I think for both men in this fight, it's a win-win situation. Look, well, maybe more lose for Stipe. I should say Daniel Cormier is a win-win situation. Look, you lose. Hey, I lost to the heavyweight champion. I lost to the baddest man on planet Earth. Right? I went up a division. He can use that excuse, right? I went up a division. I gave him my best shot. It was a super fight. I'm the underdog going into this. When it comes to Stipe, he's the heavyweight champion. So he's not looked as the underdog, quote unquote, coming in this fight. So if he loses this belt, it's more of a blemish on him than if Daniel Cormier loses. Because if Cormier loses, he goes back down to 205 and continues with his belt.
True,
right?
but I think it's a win-win for both. Because of what it can, like I said, of the gates it can open for Stipe as far as stardom, but there is a little more risk associated with Stipe's side.
Yeah, because
you're the weight division above.
And if Daniel loses, he goes back down and he still has his belt.
Right.
If Stipe loses, he's out of the belt.
Yeah, it's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
When you go up a weight, you're not, especially when you go up a weight versus a champion, there's not an expectation that you're going to win. So much as there is versus the division up. If Conor was to go and fight a Woodley, right? People would say, oh, Conor's going to win. But the expectation would be Woodley probably has the advantage because he's a weight class above. Yes. That's what makes Conor holding 2 belts and going up a weight so special. That's what would make Cormier going up and winning a belt so special. So, I mean, and you know what's very ironic about this? Is I'm like, okay, hold up. Daniel Cormier was a heavyweight fighter. Came down to light heavyweight. The whole time DC and John Jones have been in the light heavyweight division, John Jones has always been the one linked to moving up to heavyweight.
Yes. And
Daniel Cormier kind of has now, like...
He's a little bit one up, though, man.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's kind of beat him to the punch, sort of. You know what I mean? And I just find it very ironic because it was always Jones who said, yeah, when I run through everyone, I'll go up, I'll go up, I'll go up. Yeah. And now it's DC going up ahead of him.
Yeah.
So, no, this is a great, I mean, and then when you hear some of the guys that want to be on this card, Cain, Woodley, they might do 3 super fights.
Yes, because Cyborg and Amanda Nunes have been linked to this. And then there's rumblings about DJ versus TJ. So this card could be phenomenal. I mean, just think about that. If you do a DJ TJ, Cyborg Amanda, Stipe DC, best card ever. If you put Cain and Woodley on top of that, gosh.
If what we've heard as far as rumors, I mean, we kind of have our ear to the pulse of rumors and stuff. If what you hear, if half of that stuff is true, this card might be, will be the best card of all time. Yes. This will trump 200, this will trump 205, this will trump 202, this will trump 214, 217. I mean, this could be a card where you have possibly 3 super fights. You could have Cain on it. You could have Woodley on it.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal. I mean, this is so big that there's even been links that this super fight might be the co.
That'd be insane. I don't know any fight that could top that.
McGregor. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. There are, you know, depending on what happens with Tony Khabib and who comes out there unscathed and stuff, there has been a link that, that's probably the earliest Conor would come back, but,
Yeah. I that just plays the credit of the champions you have in the UFC right now because it takes great champions to make super fights, so, I mean, you just got to give those men and women credit that they're pushing the bar right now, and we're in the seat where we can see some freaking amazing fights right now.
Well, right now in some divisions, there's just that opportunity, right?
Yes.
It's just like DJ's ran through his division. Cyborg, well, there basically is no division for her. So there's just these weird, unique opportunities right now where you have just these great champions. I mean, DJ's top 3. Cyborg's the best woman in the world. You have the 2 baddest men in the 2 heaviest divisions have ran through their division basically. Like I don't think we've ever been this time where these many great champions have been just kind of like no true number 1 contender.
Yep.
And linked to these super fights, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, DJ is this great fighter, and he's not, no one's beat him in the UFC, and then it's like, whoa, he's gonna go up and maybe fight TJ, and it's like, man, TJ is a tough fight for him, right? Like that's not a gimme fight. That is interesting.
Yeah.
And then you look at Miocic, he's like, man, just being gone. What can be tougher? You getting Daniel Cormier next? Whoa, like how's that gonna play out? That is and they're intriguing. Like when we talk possibly Cyborg and Amanda Nunes, very interesting. Both women can crack and like to stand and bang. I mean, it's just this weird time. I was just thinking about all these super fights. I know I'm kind of rambling, but if they did it all on one card, it would just be special.
The super fight card,
right? Like I was sitting in bed yesterday. Okay.
Okay.
I'm thinking, yeah.
Where's this going?
Where's this going now?
PG, keep it PG. It's
No,
family
I'm
show.
just thinking,
Family show.
I hope if all these super fights happen, right? If the TJDJ, the Cyborg Amanda Nunes, the Woodley, whatever, and then Daniel Cormier and Miocic, I hope it happens on one card, right? Like, sometimes I think when you spread them all out and do them on different cards, it just waters it down. Like the Bellator heavyweight tournament, I kind of wish they did it in one night.
A little bit,
the opening round, right?
Yeah.
Make that special. Surround it around something. Like, when I always talk to people, I talk about the heavyweight division, I'm like, hey, do you remember that night where they did the whole heavyweight? It's like, yeah, man, that was sick.
Yeah.
There's just like, I like cards sometimes that play to a theme.
Yes. Yes.
Right? I like that. And you can call me old school, call it a little like gimmicky or whatever you want to call it. It's fun. Like, if they did this card, International Fight Week is going to be all super fight main card. Huh? Oh my God, what? Like, I would lose my mind. Like, it'd just be so cool. It would be a historic night if they could pull that off.
Yeah, I agree. There you
Crazy,
go.
man, crazy.
Hopefully it happens, man. But let's take a look at what happened last weekend from Charlotte,
Yes.
North Carolina, which was a great card and great performances overall. Let's start in the co-main event, and I'll start off by saying this. Andre Fili, Dennis Bermudez. How this was a split decision was absolute garbage. Whoever had that fight 30-27 for Bermudez should be reevaluated. You know how you look at people and you go...
It's just like when you have a 29-28...
For two judges.
For two judges going one way. So you have a 2-1 going to Fili.
Yeah.
And then you have like a polar opposite 30-27 for Bermudez. You're like, hold, wait a second. You basically saw two different rounds than two other people.
Yep.
That's like, to me, that's like where I see judging as, okay, all these judges are either one's a wacko and just see something that like they're high on acid or something because they're not seeing the same fight we're seeing, or there is a huge discrepancy in the knowledge of each judge.
Yeah. Right?
Are we getting two legit judges who know what the heck's going on and just one commissioned, wingnut who's just like, because there has been cases where they've brought in like just like boxing judges. And then they see like the ground game of the clinch, and they just kind of like, you don't know if they're scoring it right, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. Either way, that was just nonsense. In the end, Andre Fili should have got probably 29-28 across the board, in my opinion.
It didn't change the actual outcome.
It didn't change it. It just...
I think it was a bad look for the UFC, if anything.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because it's like, whoa, you got one rogue judge. Ugh.
Yeah, but commissions, right?
Yeah.
But Andre Fili, great performance. He was the dog. I even told you. I said, hey, I have Andre Fili in this fight.
Hey,
look, Andre Fili, very slick on his feet. He was landing good punches, using that long jab. He was snapping that jab. And not only that, a lot of people give Dan Bermudez the wrestling game in this. But don't forget, Andre Fili.
I did.
Yes, I did as well. But Andre Fili looked very good, taking Dennis Bermudez down sometimes. He mixed up his game plan well with punches and getting those takedowns. I think overall, great performance by him. He's a young cat in the game. This is a feather in his cap because Dennis Bermudez is no slouch. He's no jobber. He's a very tough guy, whoever gets in there in the octagon. But Andre Fili, great win, and I think this just elevates him to go on the right path of his career.
I was completely surprised at Fili's ability to stop the takedowns. I've watched a few of his fights previous to this, and I thought Bermudez could take him down and hold him. And he stuffed. I mean, Bermudez took him down, did he even take him down?
Bermudez did take him down.
Like once or twice, but it wasn't long.
But yeah.
It was a pop-up.
Yeah.
And all I remember thinking when watching that fight is like, wow, Andre Fili can he's got a base of wrestling. which is nice.
Yeah.
Because you always wonder when you get these elite, tall, lengthy strikers, you're always like, how's that wrestling defense, right? Especially a guy like Bermudez, who is known for his takedowns and his quick double legs and stuff. So I was completely off-put by, happily I would say off-put, because a young guy with that kind of skills, you definitely see his potential. I mean, now that I know he can stop the takedowns like that, you really think of him as, oh, okay, maybe we got something here.
And don't forget, he comes from Team Alpha Male, which usually have strong wrestlers.
Yeah,
right. You look at the guys that come from.
I was
Team
just
Alpha
thinking
Male,
like Bermuda's such a strong wrestler.
Yes.
It was going to be a very tough fight for him in that takedown defense aspect. But to me, 90% grade for him on takedown defense.
Great performance by Andre Fili. When you look at Dennis Bermudez, though, now you go, man, 3 in a row he had the split decision loss against Darren Elkins, which we agreed wasn't the best performance. He fought a tough fight against Andre Fili, and of course before that he lost to the returning Korean Zombie. Now you look at Dennis Bermudez, he's kind of got his back up against the wall a little bit. He's lost 3 in a row, he's lost 3 in under a year. He's got to bounce back with a fight. He's better than a guy who loses 3 straight. Like I said, he's a very tough competitor. But for Dennis Bermudez, he does need to come back, and he does need to get the win the next fight out, because you don't want to drop 4 in a row.
When I look at Bermudez, I almost feel like he's got I want to say get back to his basics, but I don't know if it's. I think it's like get back to your basics, which is a little more wrestling. And then he's also got to, I think, find a way to deal with these longer ranger opponents. Because I feel like he's having a little trouble with that. And I think to me, he's got to find, to put it in the layman's terms, he's got to find a better way to get inside on these guys. Right? And not just inside to look for the takedown, but inside to clinch dirty box. To jump, he has the athleticism, the jump in and out. He needs to kind of go, I want to say he needs to mimic like a Tyron Woodley, right? Tyron's versed a lot of guys like, Rory, he's versed Rory, didn't go well, didn't perform like he should have. But when he fought Stephen Boy Thompson has that crazy distance, that elongated karate style. And if you watch how Woodley got in on him and landed punches, that blitzing style, Bermudez, to me, is just as athletic, right? He has that athletic to, I think, follow a game plan like Woodley to get in on these taller, rangier guys, right? Because your takedowns are not always going to work. And when they didn't work against Fili in this last weekend's fight, you almost felt like Bermudez was like, oh crap, I gotta play the stand up. And Fili was cracking the jab, bang, bang, bang. It was like, ooh man, Bermudez is caught in this weird range where it's not like you could see it wasn't comfortable for him and stuff. So he's got to just get back to the basics and learn how to deal with the ranger opponents. Sorry. Because if he can do that, I think he'll be successful. Because as far as athletics and wrestling base, he has it, right? It's not like, well, go back to the gym, lift some weights, get your cardio better, get more. It's not that. I think for him, it's just, how do I deal with these certain opponents, right? Because he's having trouble with these certain style of fighters. So, and then for Andre Fili, it's just...
He's got 2 in a row?
Yeah, for a young kid, he's looking good. He's passing all the tests. He's passing the short, stocky wrestler. He's passing, the Artem Lobos, who are throwing bombs at you. So he like I said, he showed me his versatility. He showed me that he can deal with different types of fighters and come out the victor. So up and onwards for him. Yeah, right.
Yeah. One guy got a big victory as well as Jacare Souza, man. Look, I said if he wants to keep in within the top 3, this is a huge fight for him. And same with Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson was on the up and up, getting these KO victories, and he wanted to be the next contender, the next dangerous guy people were talking about. He fell short. Say what you want about the finish. I thought it was a good finish. Jacare gets the left high kick, finishes Derek Brunson. And look, I think this is a fight where Jacare Souza caught Derek Brunson and caught him at the right time with a beautiful kick. And I know Brunson was disputing it a little bit after the fight. But look, Brunson went on a run. He ran into Jacare, a very good guy at the middleweight division, in a stacked division. I think he's going to bounce back. I'm not worried about Brunson. I'm not saying, oh, this is such a devastating loss. Look, Brunson's going to be back. He's going to compete. I think he's the level of a top 5 fighter. He'll be back within that top 5, and he'll competing. And I think sooner than later, he'll be in the conversation for a title shot. Now, when you look at Jacare, yeah, we have the interim title fight going down with Luke Rockhold and Yoel Romero coming up in
2 weeks.
February 10th. So a week or so, a week and a half, whatever it is, 2 weeks. And
great fight.
Yeah, Jacare Souza is ranked number 3. Got that going on. And of course, the winner versus Robert Whittaker. But I think Jacare Souza is one fight away from a title shot, which puts him in a very good place with that victory. And I think a good matchup for him might be someone like a Chris Weidman. We'll see. But in the end, I think Jacare Souza is a big win for him. I think he's one win away from seeing UFC gold.
It was nice to see him win via the stand-up.
Yes.
Because the last time we saw him, he was getting completely starched by Robert Whittaker.
Yes.
So it was nice to see him rebound in that way.
Yes.
Via striking. And I think that gives him a little confidence. Like,
yes.
Okay, because the Whittaker one, he got starched like so bad. I think maybe for some fighters, it would rock your confidence to stand in front of a guy like Brunson, who has that type of Robert Whittaker athletic ability to hit the big punches, hit the big, big explosive dude, right? Young, big, explosive guy. So it was nice to see that he got the win via strikes. The finish, some people were disputing, but listen, was Brunson out? No. Was Brunson rocked? Yeah. Was he conscious? Yeah, he was conscious, and he was probably still aware a bit, but he was not defending himself. And I don't know if he exactly knew where he was. He was trying to get up, and he clearly wasn't defending himself, as Jacare was on him like a pit bull. If you want to say, well, it was a bad stop, they should have let it go. They could have let it go. The ref could have let it go, but I don't think the outcome would have changed. I think Jacare would have smashed him maybe 3 more times, and then he maybe would have fell unconscious, or he would have curled up or whatever, right? So I know when we were watching it, you said to me, "Oh, you think that's a bad stoppage?" And I was like, because he wasn't defending himself, because the hands weren't up, protecting his face where he was getting punched. I was like, nah, his hands were to the side. I don't believe in stoppages where I believe in stoppages where you're not defending yourself. So if you're not aware enough, conscious enough to get your hands up in front of your face, stop the fight.
Yeah, and that's what I think it was. I don't think he was completely unconscious, but he just wasn't completely there enough to put his hands up. And as a referee, that's what you're looking for. Don't let that fighter take damage.
Yeah.
Was Derek Brunson going to come back from that and compete in the second round? Probably not. But
5% chance.
As a referee, you go, look, fight another day, young man. I don't want you to take an unnecessary shot. I don't want you to go completely out. That's just bad for you. In the end, I think he understood that from his post-fight interviews and stuff. But I think good job by the ref as well. And you know what? Take your L this time. You'll be back there in Brunson.
Yeah, and like you said, Brunson, young guy. I know it's hard because now you've been knocked out by Jacare twice. We're stopped by him via strikes twice. So that's obviously going to leave a bitter taste in his mouth. But he's a young guy. Yeah. He will learn and improve. I mean, up to this fight, he has been improving and been one of the scarier guys when it comes to his knockout power and his strikes. What he did to Machida was impressive. Catching Machida, and then what he did to Dan Kelly, well,
was phenomenal.
Was phenomenal. But we all knew that was coming. But when they made that matchup, I was like, oh, Dan Kelly.
You've been going ham about this so many times.
Well, it's just like,
Derek Brunson is a bad matchup for a lot of people, man. He has the power. It's just this time Jacare fought a good fight. He didn't rush in there. He's being very patient. And Jacare knew that Derek Brunson had that power. So he was being very patient. And in the end, he's the victor. But overall, I think both men are... Derek Brunson will bounce back. Jacare will be in the title picture sooner than later.
Yeah, agreed.
When we talk about fights coming up this weekend, man, we got... Well, let's look at this, man. It's a 6-fight card. There's some really good fights on here. Yeah. I mean, Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos opening up the main card is a tremendous fight.
Good striking battle there.
Yes, very good. Let's talk about Valentina Shevchenko. She drops down the flyweight. Let's just talk about her for a minute, man, because this is a fight where she lost to Amanda Nunes twice, and now this is her chance to go into flyweight
via split.
Yes,
so very close.
Yes, and I thought there was going to be a rematch, but instead,
do you think she won that last fight?
I think she lost by a hair.
Yeah, when they went to the judges, I remember thinking someone's gonna win 3-2 split.
Yeah, it was that close of a fight.
Because I think I remember watching with you, and when they were like the 5th round ended, we were like, "Ooh, that's a split."
Yeah,
right. It was that close. We were like, somebody's barely gonna get this thing, 2-1 on the judges with a 3-2 round, difference.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she is at that level. Like, I mean. If she's not the champion, she is breathing down the champion's neck.
And we talked about Nico Montano, who has the belt right now. And Valentina Shevchenko, man, she wins this fight. I think she lines up with Nico Montano, and they have Nico Montano defends her belt in her first title defense against Valentina, which is not an easy task. But Nico Montano has been an underdog the whole time, the Ultimate Fighter, this and that. Won it, but I think Valentina Shevchenko, she wins this fight, she gets a title shot clearly.
Yeah, and just kind of talking about Nico, I mean, I'm glad that the UFC is giving her the time to get ready.
Yes. Because
most people coming out the Ultimate Fighter are very young, inexperienced, and if that's her first title defense, Valentino's level and experience of fighting will be
huge.
The toughest thing. I mean, it will be a just 20 levels up from the toughest thing she's ever versed. And that is a adjustment period, and you hope that Nico's getting to train with high level girls and high level fighters, UFC caliber fighters to prepare for that. But going to Valentino, and she's dropping down to make her flyweight debut against Priscilla, and Priscilla is she is a undefeated Brazilian. I believe. Oh, she's 8-0. She's undefeated. Undefeated 8-0 Brazilian. Listen, this is when I look at the skills of Valentino. Just say Valentina has way more skills, I think, as far as all around MMA game. Versus Priscilla's MMA game from top to bottom. But I think what you'll see in this fight is a big experience factor, right? You talk about an undefeated fighter, but they haven't versed this level that Shevchenko is going to bring to the table. So I think as far as all-around MMA game, it is going to be a little bit of a mismatch in that aspect. And I think Valentina will get the win. How will she get the win? If I gotta predict, I'm gonna go. You know what? I like Valentina's ground game.
Yeah, she has a very underrated ground game. I would agree with that.
For some reason, I'm thinking she's gonna rear naked choke.
Really? I'm
going rear naked choke. Second round.
I think decision 30-27. I think she's going to put on a dominant performance. She's going to use her leg kicks. She's going to use that counter puncher style. She's very good at that. Her leg kicks and her Muay Thai style, she doesn't really wind up. She throws from her stance, and it's a beautiful performance. And she's known, she's not really a killer. She won't go in there and knock you out with one punch, but she's very technically sound, and everything she throws with precision and accuracy, and she's very good at that. I have her winning 30-27. when you look at the co-main event, man, you got John Dodson versus Pedro Munhoz, and Pedro's a tough guy. Look, Pedro's coming off 4 victories in a row. His last loss was a split decision against Jimmy Rivera. You know, he lost to a Sun Sao. He just beat Rob Font, who we just saw win a match against Thomas Almeida at 220. So Pedro's no pushover. If you're John Dodson, though, you got to get back in the winning column because he's a 1-1 fighter right now, right? He's beat the Eddie Winelands, but he lost to Marlon Morales. He lost to John Whitaker. And you really look at the bantamweight division and you go, man, John Dodson, you kind of gotta get back on this winning track. And it's not going to be an easy fight. It's not, it's not going to be a tune-up practice fight when you're versing Pedro. Not a lot of people know Pedro. He might not be the same name as Dodson, but he's a very tough competitor. And this is a very tough fight for John Dodson.
When I look at this fight, I think, man, if John Dodson can keep this on the feet and keep it as kind of a more athletic fight, and what I mean by athletic fight is explosiveness, out and in, scrambles. I think he can find a lot of success versus Pedro in this style of fighting, which I think he should do. Now, Pedro, his thing is, okay, can I rock Dodson? Can I slow him down? Can I take him down and use my submission game?
Yes, and just the point I want to add out is that you've seen so many fighters recently get taken down and submitted by a guillotine. Pedro's guillotine is very, very deadly. It's probably his favorite submission he has out there. And one of the things about Dodson is I worry about possibly going to the ground is that Pedro is very dangerous. And if he goes for a takedown, that guillotine choke might get caught with it, I should say. Because Pedro likes to sneak it in there. He's very sneaky. He's very slick with that. For Dodson, I know you say possibly take him down. I don't want Dodson to go to the ground here. I want Dodson to stay up, use his in and out style. He has fast twitch muscle fiber. He's very in and out explosive. He's very quick. I want him to use his movement and his in and out and knock it on the position where Pedro could take him to the ground or possibly, submit him off his back. I think John Dodson stays up on his feet and uses just speed and just tries to outpoint. And if the opening's there, the opening's there. I don't want Dodson to go to the ground.
Who do you think wins and why?
I think John Dodson, I'm going to go decision. I think I hope he does exactly what I'm saying he doesn't. I just say don't play to Pedro's strength. You take him down. If he slips that guillotine, you're going to be kicking yourself, right? Don't do that. You're very fast. John Dodson, we haven't seen speed like that in a very long time. At flyweight, he was fast. At bantamweight, he went up there because he thought, I could be faster than most of these bantamweights. A lot of fast guys at, 125, but John Dodson always possessed that phenomenal speed. So I just think use your movement on the outside. He doesn't have to do anything flashy. Just pick up a victory in this fight. You don't want to drop 2.
Yeah, I got a 30-27 Dodson, and I think Pedro is going to have a hard time winning this fight because I believe he needs to stop Dodson. I don't think he can win all 3 rounds or 2 out of 3. It's possible, but I just think it's hard against a very explosive, very technical guy like Dodson. And I think when you look at Dodson, the record says 19-9, and you're going, okay, well, he's only won 11 more. But what really stands out to me is the loss column. I'm like, okay, well, 19-9, 9 losses, never been stopped.
Nope.
So when I look at that and I go, well, he's never been stopped. And a lot of those losses, I think at least 3 of them are split decisions. I mean, his last loss was against Marlon Morales. And that was a split. And I remember watching that fight and going, ooh, that could go either way.
John Lineker was a split too, don't forget.
Exactly. So when I look at that 9, I go, okay, well, he's never been caught by a punch or submission. So that means statistically, Pedro's going to have to probably beat him on the scorecard, and I just don't see that happening. Could he get the submission? Possibly, but again, a guy like Dodson, I mean, for you to fight, damn near 30 times and never get caught with anything, pretty unbelievable. When you think, okay, he's lost 9 times and never been stopped. Oh, that's pretty crazy, statistically.
And not only that, he's in the UFC. He's lost 4 times by decision, and John Lineker Marlon Morales was the split. The other two were Demetrius Johnson, and those were the only ones unanimous. So he only has unanimous decision losses in the UFC to the greatest flyweight fighter of all time. So he needs to win just because of what recently, but John Dodson is better than a one-on-one fighter, and easy those split decisions with John Lineker and Marlon Morales could have went the other way, and now you're talking about John Dodson as the number one contender. Yeah. So, but I think he gets the win over Pedro here.
Yeah, 30-27. Yeah.
Talk about the main event, man. Interesting. Lyoto Machida. The road hasn't been easy, and it's getting bumpier. Look, you got Luke Rockhold submitted your rear naked choke. Romero knocked you out with vicious elbows. Brunson just knocked you out in your return fight. And now you got Eric Anders, who's 10-0, can knock people unconscious with heavy hands, and looks like the up-and-comer in this middleweight division. This is a very tough fight for Machida, man. And I think this is make or break it for Machida. If Machida goes out and gets finished one more time by a big punch from Anders, this might be, hate to say it, but the end of the dragon. Now, man, it's hard to predict this fight because it kind of emulates the Brunson style. Brunson was a hard hitter, very fast in and out, can throw straights like a mother. You know what?
Yeah.
And Lyoto Machida is a patient fighter, counter fighter, waits for you to come in openings. But Derek Brunson and Eric kind of have the same styles. Eric just has to be cautious with how he comes in. Don't come in with a flurry. Try to back Lyoto Machida up against the cage and look for a shot. Pick your shots. Don't go in there and go haywire looking for a shot, because that's what Lyoto Machida does. We see the Ryan Bader highlight every time Lyoto Machida fights, because Bader rushed in there and got caught. Everybody gets hurt by Lyoto Machida, rushes in there, and isn't patient. Eric just needs to be patient. You need to be the aggressively patient. I know that sounds weird, but you need to keep on moving forward. Don't throw like haymakers. Don't try to make it a brawl. Be patient, but always being forward. Always looking for the correct shot. Don't put yourself out there for an opportunity for Lyoto Machida to put you on the highlight reel. Now, if you're Lyoto Machida, man, you got to use your movement. Try not to get hit. You got to try to land punches. You got to disguise stuff. You got to go in there, because Lyoto Machida, his karate style is very good when he's on the attack. And we see like the Rashad Evans when he won the title. His attack moving forward and he clips you. And these people aren't ready. They don't see it. There's nowhere to prepare for it. So I think both men have a key to win. Now, who do I think have the better style to win? I think it's Eric. I think he just keeps on moving forward, keeps Lyoto Machida to the outside circling, and picks his shots very well. And even with that, you know Lyoto Machida is never really going to be the aggressor. That's not his style. So even if you're controlling the center of the octagon, you could win the round even though there might not be that much action. Let me think on that for a little bit. Who I picked them in this fight. How do you see this fight going?
Oh, man. Well, where do I start? I mean, when I look at Machida in this fight, I think, okay, he could definitely find some holes in he could definitely find some holes in Eric's game. You know, for sure. He's a counter striker. He's a guy who strikes fast and quick, and you know his ability to hit angles and with different shots is unparalleled. But I do have a problem with Machida. He's been getting knocked out a lot and quickly in his last few fights. It makes me wonder, man, has Machida's chin just, is it just not there anymore? You know, like Brunson hits hard, Yoel hits hard. I get it, but when you say to me, listen, his last 3 losses have been his last 3 fights. He's been finishing all those, and the last 2 have been completely brutal KOs.
Yeah.
So I'm like, when chins started to go and I started to see it, I'm just like, oh man, especially against good young power punchers. I'm just, it's just tough for me to pick a guy when I see the chin going. No matter how technically better I think Machida might be, because I do think Machida is technically way better.
Every fight he pretty much goes into, he's the more technical.
Yes, and I think he can find holes in Eric's game. But I see that chin just kind of starting to go on an older fighter, and it makes me very very apprehensive about picking him. Because I'm like, oh, one shot could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you land one, the guy goes out, right? And then when I'm looking at Eric, I mean, you're looking at a guy who, okay, you compared him to Brunson a bit. I think he has that potential to be a Brunson. Don't think he's there yet. I don't think he's as fast or as athletic yet. He's a little kind of like bigger and more lumbering. Might have the power. Might have the power of Brunson for sure. You know, we're talking about a guy who is very athletic, right? Very athletic, big athletic dude. Played for the University of Alabama. He also had stints in the NFL with Cleveland Browns, I think, and then also the CFL. And so he comes from a football background. So he's athletic. You know he has that kind of explosive power to catch Machida. And Machida kind of having what I would call a questionable chin at this point. I'm a little worried about picking Machida. Man, who did I pick in this fight? Oh, good God. It's 5-rounder. Holy smokes.
I'll go first. I have Eric by KO in the second round. Look, I just think he has the power, and I agree that Lyoto Machida might not have the chin. And I think if Lyoto Machida does lose this fight, he should take a look at both divisions, whether that be 205 or 185, and say, I've been a champion. I've been really great at what I've done. I have nothing left to prove. But I think Eric gets the TKO second round.
When I look at skill at this point and experience, I'm like, oh, Machida has heads and hills over Eric right now. But then I'm like, oh, that chin. Like Alistar against Ngannou, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, he knocked him the shit out, but Alistar, like, when he fights now, I'm like, I'm not really worried about his technique, his punching power,
speed,
speedy technique power. I'm like, damn, I'm worried about that chin.
It's the
I'm worried about the other guy hitting him hard in the chin.
It's a durability. Look, we kind of see this come over once again. It kind of,
right?
What Vitor used to say, the young line and then the old line, right? And Lyoto Machida's getting up there. He's fought for a long time, don't forget. So it just might be like, another...
Am I crazy for worrying about the chin a bit?
No, not at all.
Yeah, right? Like,
I mean, Luke Rockhold softened him off and then got the rear naked choke. The Romero knockout was vicious. And the Brunson knockout, he knocked him out cold with one punch. So... Yeah,
you reminded me of something, actually. The keys for Machida in this fight, keep the distance game, keep the counter striking. A big key, like what I've always said about Machida. Watch this guy fight a long time. If Eric can take him down once or twice and land good ground and pound, the fight's over.
Yep, because
Machida
Romero did that and Rockhold did that.
I don't know why, but the minute you take Machida down once or twice and land a little ground and pound, it changes his game. I don't know why, but when you get dirty with Machida, it throws him off.
Some fighters like the blood. They like the down and dirty fights. They like the brawls. You see Bobby Green after his fight, spitting up water in the air, spitting up blood. He thrives off that. Lyoto Machida likes the finesse of the sport. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't like the brawls. He doesn't like all that.
But it looks like psychologically, if he gets taken down a bit, and like when John Jones took it, like John Jones literally took him down, bang, bang, hit him with a few, and when they went back up to the feet, Machida looked like he had seen a damn ghost. I mean, okay, yeah, it's John Jones, but when a lot of guys do that to Machida, he just looks like a different fighter all of a sudden.
Machida doesn't like getting into the dirty fights. He doesn't like to get hit, and that's why he's so technically sound. But it's true. When dominant wrestlers or anybody gets him down and puts some punishment on him from the top position, it does change his demeanor. So if Eric can do that, I mean, good. I have Eric TKO second round.
You know what? I'm going to go... Well, first of all, I don't think this goes 5 rounds either way.
No, I agree.
I think someone's stopping this bad boy. But I'm going to go with the person that has the tougher chin here. I'm going with Eric. I'm going to say 3rd round TKO. I just see a guy who's, from an all-around MMA perspective, Eric's probably more well-rounded because of the ground game and the clinch and the takedowns. If he can survive not getting countered, he can win this fight.
Yes.
It's all his.
Yes.
Machida does have that one thing where it's like, Eric, if you make a mistake, like you said with the Bader fight against Machida, if you make that one mistake, you can go night quick. But if you play your game plan, play smart, be accurate, be sharp, don't take risk. Remember, Machida also doesn't like fighting backwards.
Yes.
Not only backwards, but he doesn't like being on the cage.
And that's why I said Eric has to be patient, but keep on moving forward.
Like you'll always see Machida, like he's countering, he's moving back, but he loves to circle. Cut those angles off.
Yes.
Cut that movement. Like Machida runs on counter movement, not just counter striking, but counter movement. You are going to throw a punch, and like if you and me are fighting each other, and I'm Machida, you're throwing that fight thinking my face is going to be right here.
Yes.
The minute you throw that punch, he just backs up out of that way, and that's because he has room to do that. You lock right. How do you fight Machida? You lock him in a phone booth. Right? If Eric can lock Machida in a phone booth, hell, I'll take him 100 out of 100 times. Right? But if he can't do that, now we got a different fight on hand. But I'm going to go Eric, third round TKO. I'm just going to go with the guy that has more power and the better chin because I just... I have a rule. Not like a rule, but I just... When I see someone's chin going on an older fighter, I'm hesitant to take him. Just hesitant to take him, man.
Fair enough. Well, 6-fight card. I mean, like I said, Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith opening up the card is going to be good.
Someone's getting knocked out on that.
Oh, yeah. That's going to set the tone for that one. So.
I'm telling you, like, when you look at this card, that's probably the baddest fight of the night.
Yeah, that's going to be a war.
Woo!
It's going to be absolute barn burner.
Someone's getting, no, like, legit. If someone doesn't get knocked out...
I'll be surprised. Take the under, people.
Oh, hell.
Especially with 2.5.
If it's 2.5...
Take the under.
You already won your money.
Yeah.
Tell the books to send it.
Yeah. Before you even put it down, tell them to send it.
Watch them go decision now.
Yeah. Never trusting Cole and Jason again. Anyways, the fights come from Brazil this Saturday night. Make sure you enjoy it. And it's Super Bowl weekend, so make sure you enjoy the Super Bowl. Predictions on the Super Bowl, Cole. Will Nick Foles come back after being traded from Philadelphia? Come back to Philly and bring Philadelphia Eagles the first World Championship, or will the Patriots repeat and claim their dominance?
You know what? I'm going Eagles in a blowout.
Blowout?
Yeah, they're going to win by 14.
Is that a blowout? That's a...
Super Bowl, that's a blowout.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'll say this because I just think it's hard because the Eagles' defense to me is elite. But then, if Nick Foles plays like he did against the Vikings...
And even like he did against the Falcons.
Patriots got problems.
Yeah.
Now, if Nick Foles plays like some of his, worst games in his career... Ugh.
Well, they're doing a good job of making it easy
on
Nick Foles.
They're running the ball.
Yes.
Right?
And the run-pass option is huge.
Yes.
They're doing that about 80% of the time.
Yeah,
so.
and that helps quarterbacks like Nick Foles who don't, don't have to throw it.
It's going to have to come. Look at Tom Brady where he struggles the most, and it was against the New York Giants, mostly because at those times they had defensive lines that could get after Brady. I mean, you look at the first one, Justin Tuck, Michael Strahan. Eagles defensive line is very good with Fletcher Cox. You got Graham. You got all those guys.
That's my X factor in this game, Fletcher Cox.
Yes, he's going to be huge, especially in the middle, pushing that pocket back.
Because when you look, so we're big football guys, by the way.
Yeah. So
when you look at quarterbacks who are very stationary and like clean pockets, people always upset. They always, the DNs, the blind side DNs. That's where the pressure is coming in from. I say, no, think about this. When you think about yourself standing in a pocket, I said, pressure around the edge, you can step up, you can step into that B gap. It's very easy to do that. What's the hardest thing to do? When they are backing up into your face.
Yes.
Right? When a defensive end rushes you, he's only cutting off one part of the field as far as your vision, the way you have to step. When a D tackle busts through the A gap, he's blocking off 80% of your throwing lanes, your field. Now you have to back up, which comes in the lanes of the D. I mean, I do this shit to you in Madden.
I don't know about that.
Send that little pressure at the gap.
But I do believe the Eagles, like you said, man, Fletcher Cox is going to be an X factor. They got some corners that are playing out of their mind right now. Malcolm Jenkins might be an X factor if Gronk, he's going through concussion protocol, but he did a really good job against Kyle Rudolph in the NFC Championship game. And when it comes to Nick Foles, the defense have to hold Brady so that Nick Foles can do just enough to get the W.
But you look at that defense and they've stopped Atlanta.
Yes.
Julio, Freeman, same to about Matt Ryan. And they've held the Vikings offense, which when you look around their offense, you don't see stars, but they beat a lot of good teams. They've surprisingly put a lot of points up this year. So you look at all the weapons they have, they shut them down. And they're embracing this underdog role,
Yeah, which is deadly. And it was funny, Willie McGinnis, just closing up here, Willie McGinnis said to Tom Brady back when the Patriots were versing the greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams, they were looked at the defense with the kind of underrated Tom Brady back in the day, QB stepping in his first Super Bowl. And the Patriots are taking the underdog role, and now the roles are kind of reversed when you have this underdog defense, this backup QB coming in versus Tom Brady and the Patriots. So it's going to be interesting. You have Eagles. I'm going to go... Hell, I'm with the underdogs. I'm going to go Eagles by 3. Jake Elliott kicks a 55-yarder plus to bring Philadelphia Eagles.
He's my other X factor.
Their first Super Bowl. There you go.
Jake Elliott, man. We're first of all, we're Seahawks fans, so the kicking game is always.
So we really love the kicking game this year. We didn't see much of it, but
the kicking game is always like a good. I'm not even joking right now. If the Seahawks said, "Hey, we'll give our future second rounder for Justin Tucker," I'd be like, "I'll do it."
Yeah, go ahead.
Throw in the fourth.
Kickers are people too. They're game changers too. For us, it was the wrong. They changed it to an L.
It's frustrating as a Hawks fan. You're like, man, Blair Walsh screwed up 3 games for us. And then you're seeing guys like Jake Elliott and Tucker kick 62s, and you're going, what the?
Arcan hit a 39.
Yeah, you're going, these guys are like going above and beyond to win their team's games, and we got Blair Walsh out here.
We just go Blair Walsh, don't lose it for.
Yeah, we got Blair Walsh out here kicking damn near 28s, missing wide right.
Missing PATs. Go Hawks, by the way.
Yeah, go Hawks. Yeah.
Right. Anyways, enjoy the fights. Enjoy Super Bowl weekend. If you're going to it, enjoy it even more. Enjoy the fights. It's going to be a good one. We'll catch you up because previewing next week, it will be the interim middleweight title showdown between Yoel Romero, I should say, and Luke Rockhold, which is going to be a fantastic fight. So we'll break down what happened Super Bowl Sunday weekend, the card in Brazil, and we'll preview that one and all MMA news. If you haven't already, you know the drill. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, Player FM. You know what to do. Hit the follow button, hit the like button with the overhand right, and we'll check you out next time.